Vamos a iniciar. Bienvenidos a Esto es Google, a nuestro primer track de pláticas. Este es el track rojo, donde vamos a tener toda la acción para ustedes. Me da muchísimo gusto saludarles. Mi nombre es Francisco Solsona. Yo soy director de Relaciones con Desarrolladores en México y Colombia y parte de América Latina. Y me toca parte de apoyar el ecosistema, hacer este tipo de eventos. Y hoy estamos de plácemes porque tenemos desde Israel, que pueden ver en pantalla, a mi amigo Ido Green. Ido es uno de nuestros expertos más reconocidos en HTML5 y él va a hacer la presentación. Vamos a tener al final un espacio para hacer preguntas y respuestas. Ido va a hablar en inglés, pero si alguien tiene problemas o alguna cosa, tenemos una cabina de traducción. Y les voy a platicar rápidamente quién es Ido. Ido ha sido promotor y creador de empresas por más de 18 años, tiene una amplia experiencia, es uno de nuestros expertos más grandes en Europa, en Estados Unidos y por supuesto lo reconocemos en Google en todos lados. Aún le gusta desarrollar aplicaciones web, pero solo aquellas que tienen una increíble interfaz gráfica, que es prácticamente lo que les vamos a platicar el día de hoy. Tiene una gran experiencia y conocimientos técnicos, incluyendo HTML5, Java, JavaScript y todos los aspectos de desarrollo y sistemas en la nube. Entonces, sin más, le voy a pasar la palabra a Ido, que, repito, está desde Israel. Entonces, les pido por favor que le den la bienvenida.
So hello and thank you everyone. First, thank you for having me and thank you for coming and investing the time. Let me jump into the slides and hopefully we'll have enough time in the end to questions, because I know that sometimes this is probably the best part of the talk itself. Basically what we're going to cover in the next 40 minutes is what type and what kind of new HTML5 we have today that we could leverage in order to build dynamic sites and great web apps. All the slides are online and you could track them right now if you want to follow up with me on the slides. They are all up here. Let me put it a bit big so it will be very easy to everyone to check it out. Let's do that. And then let's make it larger. So if you'll go to the yellow link, you'll be able to just follow the slides. And that's actually a nice, cool trick to put some colors into your console log messages. So just copy the link and feel free to follow up on the slides right now in real time while I'm going over them. Okay. Another link that I put here at the bottom is my talk from Google I/O, and that's basically a talk that will take you to the new product that we launched half a year ago, which called the Cloud Endpoints. A very nice, interesting aspect to build an API that will let you consume it from any platform or mobile device. Basically a very nice and easy way to leverage the power that we have today in Google App Engine and build your new API on top of it and then maintain it and work with it very easily. So we won't touch it today, but if you want, go ahead and check it out. So who am I? I'm acting as developer advocate. I'm really passionate about the web, HTML5, Chrome, and Chrome OS. If you want to follow or to get updates, please feel free. I'm trying today to keep new interesting stuff both on G+ and on Twitter. And of course that I'm trying to blog at least on a weekly basis with cool new things that we have on the web. Usually when I'm meeting and working with developers and startup, one of the main questions that I get is exactly that face of the cat. Really? The web can do that? And here is some of the new APIs that hopefully will be beneficial and useful for the ones that are working as web developers day in, day out. So what we're going to do today. First, let's define together what is a modern web app, what we see in it. Then we'll go and scan pretty quickly the new APIs and tools that you could leverage today in your apps. From time to time, I will try to open DevTools. That's another passion of mine. and give you just new tips and hints of things that could make you a better web developer. And if we'll have time, would love to give you maybe 3-4 minutes of an update of where we're standing with Chrome OS and what's going on in this interesting new field. Basically, when we're coming and speaking about modern web apps, about great web apps, we're speaking about the power of HTML5 and the combination of native and desktop experience that user came to love and learn to expect it. When we're combining the two, and of course, when we're speaking about HTML5 and web development, it's always coming hand in hand with some strong server in the cloud. Basically, in the end, we're getting modern web apps. Here are some good examples to modern web apps. You could see, of course, Gmail Offline, the New York Times, Angry Birds, because there's no good example without Angry Birds, and Hipmock. Now, just to make sure that everybody are aligned, those apps built from the ground up with offline first methodology. What I mean by that is that if you'll go to chrome.angrybirds.com or just to the Chrome web store and you will install Gmail Offline or Angry Birds, basically after the first time that you'll run it, you'll be able to launch it even if you are on an airplane or a submarine. It doesn't really need an internet connection in order to make you, the user, productive. Moreover, all those apps are very functional. They are self-contained. They are giving the best usage of the real estate of the one-page app to the user. They don't navigate you to other pages. And they have a heavy logic on the client side. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons why we see a flourishing in the MVC, or should I say MV star frameworks, that basically coming in a nutshell to make your code much more maintainable, readable, and have a clear separation between the data and the views. When we're speaking about device aware, as you all know, we have Chrome today from TV through desktop, laptops, tablets, and then mobile devices. And you want to make sure that users, whatever they are, and doesn't matter what screen they use, they will be able to use your app and be productive with it. So hopefully the app itself know how to leverage media queries and how to do the best effort in order to give the users the best experience that they could get. If we're speaking about experience, we all know that performance are extremely important, and Amazon, Facebook, Yahoo, Google, of course, did lots of research that you can find online, how every millisecond count. And when we're speaking about great or modern web apps, we want to make sure that they will be as smooth as possible with hopefully 60 frames per second, so the user will be as happy as we want them to be. That just to touch on a few of the client-side frameworks that I feel pretty passionate about these days. Let's start maybe from the bottom and go up. Ember.js, which called by some people the Ruby of Rails of the client-side world, basically choose convention over configuration. And both Yehuda Katz and Tom Dale that are behind these great frameworks did lots of decisions and took lots of decisions for you. So I encourage people to check it out. And if those decisions and using handlebars as a templating engine is working for you, then it's great. And it's specifically great framework if you're going to build an app that user will spend the vast majority of their time in it. Backbone.js is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, JavaScript MVC framework. And I guess one of the strengths is the simplicity. So even if you don't use any framework, you're just writing really order code right now in the client side where you have a clear separation between your data and the views, probably you could leverage and use Backbone even in your current app quite quickly. The last, but definitely not least, is Angular.js. It's a new, quite new actually, a framework that started as a project inside Google, and luckily for us and the open web, Google open sourced it. What I like about Angular is they are taking a new approach in terms of looking at HTML as a markup language and saying something that is very known to all of us. HTML started in the 90s, where we used to have static sites. Today we have dynamic sites. So let's have a fresh look in HTML and see how we could use it and leverage it and extend it so it will support our dynamic sites or modern web apps. they're doing some great things like test-driven development and dependency injection, which I think it's probably the only JavaScript framework that supports it. So I highly encourage you to check it out. And of course, as we mentioned, we can't live without a strong server to make sure we're saving the state and data of our clients. And Google Cloud Endpoint is definitely something that I encourage you to check out. Oh, by the way, the link here is what my colleague Eddie Osami did, the Hello World, or the new Hello World of the MVC frameworks, and it's the to-do list. So if you want to check some other options, very good options, just go there. It's a great resource. When we're speaking about offline, there's lots of good reasons, and you could read and see them. I would just make a bold statement that I think one of the main features that you want to support offline will be that it will increase the performance of your app. It will just make everything snappy, everything smooth, and that's something that is very crucial, especially when we're speaking about mobile devices, tablet devices, where users consume your web apps on, let's say, cafe shops and places where the network is flaky. You definitely gain lots of benefits for making sure that your app working offline. How we could do it offline? Well, today, luckily, we have quite nice APIs that let us do those things quite quickly and easily. Storing assets like the HTML, the JavaScript, CSS, some media files, audio, images, it's all can be done with app cache. If you want to store state and data, then local storage is probably the most common API that is around all modern browsers. If you need a full-blown database, then IndexedDB is the new database on the client side. And of course, we have the ability to work with files. File API is very, very important, and I think that one of the aspects to make offline, probably the challenge there, is to make sure that your sync layer is doing the right thing in the right time. How it could do that? Well, basically, this one line will let you know when you are offline or when you are online, so you'll know what to do for each case. A good example here will be Google Docs, where you launch them in an offline mode. It still lets you edit the doc, but it's making sure that you are aware that you are now in offline, and when you are online again, it will do the right sync and let you know. Let's go and work with some of, and see what are the new APIs that we have, not only in HTML5, actually in HTML5 and CSS3. So CSS for web apps. We had great new standards in CSS, but now basically, yeah, we do have very cool new features that we could deploy in order to achieve a web app. Again, if you remember the old days when we wanted to use CSS to put our building blocks on the page, we use floats, we use absolute position sometimes, but when we're speaking on multiple devices, those things will be extremely hard and sometimes just don't work well. And luckily for us, 2012 was the year of the flourishing of W3C specification for web apps. And I think one of the most interesting aspects were the grid layout, which you can check out here, and the flexible box layout. And we're speaking about the new one. There was an old one, which is already deprecated. So those two were the most interesting ones. Why Flexbox is so awesome? Well, basically because it allows us to achieve the holy grail. What we want is the main focus on our content, which is this case is the article, then some header, footer, and navigation. Another colleague of mine, EG, did a very nice app that will let you play with it. And of course, you have the link there. And basically, it's just giving you the ability to work quickly and build something cool with Flexbox and then copy it to your app. So feel free to work with it. In this presentation, when we put plus, it's just to make sure, as you all know, that we're using the right prefix to all the different browsers. Hopefully, most of them will build it in the next future, and then we'll be able probably to work without those prefixes. But for now, as you all know, it's something that is being experimented, luckily for us, in lots of browsers, and that's why we need to use the prefixes. Here, as you could see, Flexbox is giving us extremely cool and powerful API to work quickly and line up our content on the page. As you could imagine, it's basically giving us the ability to adjust, and basically the browser adjusting it for us without any line of JavaScript to the screen size that we're working with. Another very nice way is the separation between the markup itself, so how the items are laid out in our HTML, and their order. So in this case, as you can see here, it's a very easy way to read it. Let me make it even bigger. We aiming to the second child, and then in the order, I might say something like, let's put it after it. So you saw that the B and the C just changed. So it's basically letting you control the order very easily. Another aspect, not just the order, but just to make sure that we are dealing with the height and scaling of our building blocks. You all know how hard this is to do without Flexbox, and in Flexbox you could probably do view source and see that it's just one line and one attribute that I'm doing, and that's it. Other very cool thing is just to make sure that we are controlling our building blocks, and in this case, let's say that I want the second child again, the B, to be 3 times large than the others. So immediately it does it for me. Very easy and very cool way just to control our main building blocks. This is another very cool demo that Eric Bidelman did, which basically lets you run and create this notion of a web app, and you could definitely take it out and check it. It's very, very nice demo. Which browsers support it? So luckily we have it on Safari, on Chrome, and on IE10. Dynamic CSS. I'm not sure how many of you know, but luckily today in a lot of browsers we have the ability to run with dynamic CSS. So basically what we're achieving today with SAS and less, we could do natively in CSS. As you can see here, all I'm doing is when I'm hovering, I'm changing the border radius to 0, and I'm calculating, in order to achieve those nice circles, I'm calculating basically the width and height. So the CSS will do it for me, and I don't need any steps like I do today in SAS and less, where basically I have another step in my building phase in order to make sure that I'll be able to work with those type of functions. Luckily enough, it's quite widespread today, and basically you could start using it. As you saw, only Opera is the kid on the block that we're waiting to accomplish it. Let's speak a little bit about data binding. As you all know, data binding is extremely crucial to any modern web app. We used to do it in the old days where we used the jQuery data attribute or any other hacks. Luckily today, and that's one good example to the power of Angular, we could achieve it with frameworks, and not necessarily just Angular, but I choose Angular because it's very, very straightforward. Even if you never saw the syntax, see how easy it is to read it. Basically, I'm defining that this is an Angular app, so the magic will be done for me. So the Angular base code will know that I'm treating this as a new app. And then I'm saying, okay, the model will be the value, and all I want you to do is to refresh it. And Angular will put all the right event listener, so when I'm moving the slider, it's updated automatically the value. Of course, we don't need the framework to achieve it. And here in our own examples, we look how we use attribute and a clever way just to update it for with a plain vanilla JavaScript. Here you could see that I'm setting the initial value, and after that I'm listening to the change event on the slider, and then when I'm changing the value, basically in the CSS I'm putting in content after the attribute of the new parameter. Another way, which is luckily for us really widespread today, is to use a data list. So data list is basically letting us today to achieve a really nice autocomplete. As you can see here, if I start typing, it's automatically auto-completed for me. And if I'm just clicking an error, I have the ability just to choose all of them. And this cool new thing is basically, the data attribute are basically widespread all over, so feel free to use them. Just please remember both the data list and the data attributes are, when we're speaking here on IE, we're speaking on IE10. Let's speak a little bit about multi-thread programs. So we all know that when we're working with browsers, the main JavaScript thread is the one that consume and the one that we have to use. So this is the one that basically consume all the resources. And in our web app, if we have now some heavy computation, we need to be really careful about it because it will make the app feel sluggish or just hang out, and we definitely want to avoid it. To me personally, I got really excited about it. So excited that I wrote a book about it. And I had the honor to work with O'Reilly, which were great to developers, and just published this short book about web workers and how you could benefit from them. What I like to do here is just to show you how simple the API look like. So here in the top, this simple code of the HTML itself, of let's say the one-page HTML file that we'll have, we're basically defining a new worker and give it a pointer to the code that basically will be right here. Then we're just defining the post message, so an event listener. So we'll have a channel to communicate with this worker, one to send it the settings or the data to work on, and on the other end, just to be able to get back the results. On the worker itself, again, we'll have the event listener to listen to the message, do some work. Of course, that in that environment, we are much encapsulated and we don't have all the freedom that we have on window object, but you still do some nice things like XHR, especially XHR2 with binary data, import scripts, like in this example, and give it even a callback so you consume some other information from external resource. And of course, just use the post message API to communicate back to the parent. One very important thing that I guess held web workers from being much more popular than they are today is the ability to work and debug them. And luckily for us in Chrome, we have in DevTool the way to debug them just like we're debugging any other web app. If you go to the open Chrome DevTool, you'll have a way to check the worker inspector, and there, if you click on debug, basically when you refresh, you'll get another new window of Chrome DevTools that will be devoted to the worker itself. So that's a very, very good news when you're working with it. Another important thing to note is that if you're working with Modernizer, I strongly actually encourage you to work with it just to make sure that you're doing the right feature detection. Modernizer.webworkers will give you the right answer if the browser is supporting it or not. Other cool aspect that we have in Worker, which is even more sophisticated way to work with them, is with Share Worker. On Shared Worker, basically you can think of it as the one shared location to all the instances of your web app. So if you have multiple windows or tabs, they will still be able to reach one shared worker. And you can think of lots of useful scenarios like have single point of communication with the server, or a single point to work with the local database, and lots of other way to just share information and make sure that it's more efficient in the footprint when the app is actually producing and working with large quantities of data. All the book examples are open and are there on GitHub, so just feel free to take them, play with them, and let me know what you think about them, please. Access to file system. So I don't know, usually when I'm doing this talk face-to-face, I'm asking the audience just to raise their hand if they knew that they could work with files from the browser. Here, let's move on quite quickly and let's see what we could do there. Basically, you do have the option to work with file system today. This is how you request the file system. It used to be limited to quite minimal space. It used to be 5 meg and then it was extended, but today it's 50% from the free space that you have on the disk that is devoted, of course, to the browser. And each web app is getting 20% from these 50%. So you have plenty of room to put lots of files. For instance, we have today games, Chrome games, that are using more than hundreds of megs of files just to have their local assets managed for a game. Of course, one important note, you can't really access your My Document or any space that you want on the disk. It's basically a sandbox under the browser itself, and it's more strict per the origin. So it will be the protocol, the domain, and the port number. And the power, as you can imagine, is like with any other platform where you could really have files and folders to do whatever you like with. One, of course, very useful byproduct from it will be just to have an assets loader and just manage locally all the assets that you need to your web app. How we could cache remote files. This is a short example just to show you how we're using XHR2 in order to save and basically cache an image. So first we'll call and request to get a temporary storage. Then we'll run and fetch the file itself. And then we need two things. One is the file writer. And then basically when we're getting the XHR response, we'll use the binary object in order to write it to the disk. There's a lot of callbacks here, and I'm going over it quite quickly, but obviously you could go much slower on it later on. Few important things to note. Then after we're saving it, basically, and it's very cool that we're sticking with the notion of the web, you have a URL to access this specific place of the image. And if you want to add it to your web app, this is how you're basically taking it and putting it on the page itself. We have, of course, lots of callbacks. And luckily for us, Eric Bidelman put this open source project on GitHub, which basically lets you work with the nice Unix style commands like ls, mv, cp to do all the things that you think are useful when you're working with files. So again, I highly encourage you to use it. This is a great demo that just show you the power. We won't have time to work on it, but feel free to open it in Chrome Canary, by the way. All the things that I'm showing you right now, I'm doing it from Chrome Canary. For the one that doesn't know, Chrome Stable is the stable version, and Chrome Canary is a version that you can install side by side with the stable version. It's updated very frequently, and you're basically getting the latest and greatest in terms of Chrome, all the updates and the new feature. And for web developers specifically, the dev tools are improving over time, and you're getting the latest things all the time. So that's, yeah, of course, one of the things, yeah, but it's only in Chrome. Well, of course, Chrome is very popular, but we love to do things in the open web. And luckily for us, with this JavaScript chain that Eric Bidelman did, we have it both in Firefox and IE10. So you could start using it. Serverless downloads, another very important aspect. We see more and more web apps that wish that they didn't have to do the old hack of content disposition and just making some hacks so the user will open a new tab or window in order to download something. And luckily for us today, we have this specific thing when we just specifically saying and using the download attribute. So when we'll put this in the URL, the user will download it immediately without the need to do any hack. This is another demo that just showing you this power. And basically after you're writing here your great new novel, you'll be able to save it. Let's close it and move on. How it's basically saving it and generating this, you could see in this code that basically after we capturing the content from in our case it was a text area, but it could be any other resource, we creating this object URL and then giving the attribute to our new link with the name, And that's basically, that's it. We just added it to the page itself. Let's speak about efficiency data transfer. You all, of course, know that post message used to be our way to communicate between Windows and to our web workers. In the old days, all we used was strings, and in cases where we really want to have some JSON object, it was by stringified first, not very efficiently. When we didn't have any choice and we had some binary data, it was with base 64. We didn't have too much things to do, specifically when we have new types, and luckily for us today we have the file, the blob, and array buffer that letting us work nicely with binary data. Then post message from Chrome 20 and Firefox 13, just to know where we are in 23 and 14 plus here, so it's good news. We could use those new types in post message, and that was very, very nice. So we could move larger chunks of data to the workers and back. But in the end of the day, all of those methodologies used copy. So it wasn't very efficient, specifically when you are speaking about large objects that are, let's say, 30, 50 megs of something. We knew that we could do better, and luckily we have a much better way to do it now with transferable objects. The right way probably to look at it will be as a move or a move of pointers. So we don't really doing a copy, it's more of a shallow move, and that's basically brought tremendous amount of efficiency. And in the demo that we look in the next slide, you can see that we got around 50 times faster. All we need to do is basically pass this second argument, and then we'll know that we are basically, we're telling the browser that in this case we're working with transferable objects. Let's try and run this. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm creating an object of 32 megs, and I'm passing it to the worker and back, and you can see here that it's very quickly, it's between 13 to 7, 10 milliseconds. If you run this demo on a browser that doesn't support transferable object, the results will be around 300 milliseconds or more. How you do a feature detection for that, that's a bit problem, but luckily with this simple code, we'll know when we do have transferable objects, so we'll be able to use them. We're just using a really, really tiny array buffer, post it, and see what we're getting. Currently, it's just supported at Chrome. Native hardware. Native hardware is another very lucrative, exciting field. We all know that in the battle or the debate between native and HTML5, there's always the strong good case of native apps are much stronger to the metal, are much stronger to the hardware. And we all know that HTML5 is catching up pretty quickly. And here in device API, which all the specifications are done under this link, we do have today some very, very nice APIs that are exposed to us. So one of the trivial one is the geolocation that was around the block for a long time. Other is the device orientation. So we have a direct way to tell what the accelerometer telling us, basically for gaming and other util apps. WebGL on the GPU, HTML5 system, as we saw, the navigator to say where the connectivity is up or down, battery API, so we could do things more efficiently and save battery on mobile devices, and gamepad API. And of course, Bluetooth and USB that are part of it lets you do very, very cool things. Last but not least is WebRTC, where basically we have a way to capture voice and video without any plugin, no Flash, no Java, just natively on the web. And with it come, of course, the new web audio API that basically lets us work with audio itself. That was the first step where we have baked into WebKit the ability to capture speech. Let me try New York. Yeah, so that's something that I'm doing, and you could guess that with my accent, if I'm trying things that are different from New York, it might not work well. But the good things is basically that API give you the probability. So you could tell how strong it feel that it match and recognize what you said. And that's something that you could use in your web apps today. Capturing and working with rich media through WebRTC. We're using all that through Get User Media API. Basically, the very nice thing is that we use the old video tag. So in our case, we're just taking this tag, this source, and we're giving it the stream. So it's really powerful to see how new APIs are being blended into old APIs. Here are a list of a very cool demos that I highly encourage you to check out. Some of them are very, very cool and will work nicely on Chrome Canary, of course. This is a snippet of code to show you how you could record data. In our case, probably we'll want to use XHR2 and upload it to a server. And basically, it's one of the things that you could think of all the use cases to do those things. When we see webrtc.org and this new cool specification, we could play with it, of course, in Chrome and then in Firefox and Opera as well. Make audio, yeah. So we all know that audio was around the block, and we could use the audio tag. What's making it really sexy, and I will skip this demo that you could go on later, is the ability basically to work with the source files and slice and dice the raw elements of the audio stream. Basically, it's giving us lots of power, and we could do very, very nice things like stream multimedia. So once we have the control and the ability to work with the audio object itself, we could use WebSockets and just build our own streamer. WebSockets, of course, to the ones of you the new, are our way to open a connection and use full duplex with the server, much more efficient than the half duplex on HTTP. And today with file blob and the ability to work with binary objects, that's a very, very efficient way to do things like the streamer that I spoke about. This is a snippet of code that will basically work and stream your, let's say, song to whatever you want. Here we have a very nice demo that works locally with Node.js. One demo is the audio streamer, the other will do a screen share. Both of them are using WebRTC and the audio HTML5 API. Something very important that I trying to emphasize on each and every talk is that we speaking about the latest and greatest, but we do know that when you're working, you have lots of users that are still have the older browser there, and for them, let's say that they must work with the older browser, i.e. 6 to 9, we do have a solution. So the solution is coming as Chrome Frame. Chrome Frame is basically an IE plugin, doesn't need any admin right to install it. And once you install it, you're getting a headless Chrome inside IE that, of course, letting your user enjoying amazing things like 3D WebGL inside IE 6 or 7. All it requires from you, the web developer, is this one line of meta tag, or if you control the server, you could just send this HTTP header. It's a very, very nice addition to make sure that your users that are still forced to work with an older browser would be able to enjoy a new web app that you are developing. And I know lots of startups are doing it just to be able to support new feature for users that can afford it. Here it's another very nice list to show you and spark your minds and imagination on what you could do today with the new audio API. Chrome OS update. Hopefully we have another 3 or 4 minutes. I would love to give you a quick update. And let's go here. So basically Chrome OS, it's a very, very exciting new technology. As you all know, Chrome is everywhere today. The number here is accurate for half a year ago, so just add it. And basically what Chrome OS is a hardware around Chrome. Chromebooks are basically great devices, great laptops to users that spend the vast majority of their time on the web. Think of lots of users that you know that doesn't need Photoshop and doesn't need to compile or compiler. And what they do today is basically using the web, their web browsers, 99% of the time. For that, Chromebook and Chromebooks are great devices. What it's built on top? It's built on top a very thin Linux OS that bringing the three pillars of Chrome into it. So we have the speed, the simplicity, and the security. Every 6 weeks, you're getting a new version, new updates, and it's bringing you some very, very cool features. And for the ones of you that just want to try it, I have a link on my blog to how you could play with it on VirtualBox and just get a sense and a feel to how does it look like. Basically, it's bringing all the great HTML5 features that we spoke and more and others that we didn't have the time to touch on. And what's more important, it's basically giving you all the aspects and the great apps that you have today on the webs. Starting with Netflix to Gmail, Maps, anything that you can imagine. The Chrome Web Store is actually a great marketplace just to check what it's on there today. The great thing is that unlike a normal OS, which has tons of layers until you basically being able to launch your web browsers, with Chrome OS, you just have the web. So very quickly, actually here it's 8 seconds, it's far less than 8 seconds, it's between, for my personal experience, between 6 to 7 seconds. It will boot from total offline to up and running. It's got a 3G, so you're basically always connected. And it's bringing to you all the great apps that you love anyhow on the web. Here are some of the parameters. I think one of the most interesting one is that it will, the battery will actually give you a full day of working. So you won't need to charge it. You could really work with it for a full day. They are easy to manage. If we're speaking about small, medium businesses or large enterprises, you have the ability through Google Manage Console to manage all the Chromebooks in your organization, install apps, the uninstall apps, just control everything that you want. And of course, there's no migration, because once you're working in Chrome and you have the sync ability on it, it will always bring you the latest state that you've been. So let's say, and take the extreme case that someone stole your Chromebook or it was destroyed, you're just taking a new one and you are up and running without any delays. So we spoke about all these. There are a few things that are more tailored to education and business, and it's making a lot of sense there, specifically because the ROI or the return on investment is straightforward and very, very quickly. And basically, I just really encourage you to check it out. And of course, the one more thing or last thing is that it will improve over time. Unlike, you know, lots of other OS that after 2 or 3 years, you must reboot and install it from scratch. So yeah, so I think, yeah, that was it. We covered quite a lot of things. And I would really, really love to hear some questions. Thank you.
Ok, jóvenes, estamos ya sobre el tiempo, hay cambio de sesión, pero si tienen alguna pregunta para Ido, con mucho gusto la podemos transmitir. La presentación, videos, etcétera, los vamos a poner en el sitio para que tengan acceso a toda esta información. Gracias.